How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Bobby Sixkilla. Welcome back to the Divine Deception. We've got one more card in Val's stack to go, and we don't have a key for this one, so shit, yeah, we're doing that right now. And then we're heading back into, depending on what keys that yields, if any, we'll either head into Laverna's one or back into Locke's one to get more keys until we're forced to do this one. It's the only one left that we haven't started, and we've finished most. And we sure as shit will have after this one. Let's see how Val's story shakes out, huh? Culling. Damn it. Fucking damn it. Fuck, fuck, shit, fuck, fuck. Man, I love to swear. Shitty fucking fuck, fuck, shit. Right, what was I doing? I really didn't have an obligation to kill myself like this. Life was going well up until this point. Quite well, in fact. You could almost argue that this was the exact worst time for something like this to pop up. Which of course I couldn't help but feel was intentional. I internally cursed up a storm. I didn't want to do what I was about to do. It was stupid. It was unnecessary. It was irrational. I hadn't thought it out ahead of time. In all likelihood I'd get myself killed for nothing. Whatever. To be honest, I didn't really have a choice. As much as I was grumbling, I wasn't so far gone that I wouldn't do anything in this situation. Still, it was pretty fucking inconvenient, especially considering when it had popped up. I did my best to assemble a stable disguise on short notice. A quick trip to a dirt cheap clothing store to pick up a hoodie, jeans and a face mask. It would have to do. Didn't have more time than that. I looked further up the street. There it was, the V Hall. I could hear a commotion from the inside of the building, even this far away. Yeah, it was crowded. It was intense, which meant it was insanely dangerous. Although, in these particular circumstances, all of that probably worked to my advantage. If there were a lot of people, then there was a lot of activity. It would be far easier for an imposter like myself to be undetected. That would have to do. I walked up to the front door. The guard clearly looked distracted. His attention was mostly directed at the events happening inside. However, it appeared as though things hadn't completely become so chaotic that the duets were content to leave the entrance unguarded. I almost wanted to just slip by while he wasn't looking at me. Now, that was probably more of a risk than it was worth. Instead, I just coughed. The guard looked at me, still distracted. Oh, right. Password? To speak the name of the dead is to make him live again. Cool. This guy didn't give a shit. He was busy trying to see the main event happening inside. Which, fair enough. Even from the doorway, it was clear that shit was going down. Serious shit. For one, the lights were mostly off. Not completely, like it wasn't dark in here, but it was dimmed. Created a grim atmosphere. There was also the fact that the duet members had made something of a circle around the center of the room. There was a few stragglers in the back, but for the most part, everyone in the room was encircling one scene. I couldn't quite see from my perspective, though I could guess at it. I began making my way closer. However, even from my position outside of the circle, I could clearly see the intense argument happening between the two different voices, and watching silently were the duets. Not like a collection of duets, but the whole gang. Not literally, of course. There are almost certainly dozens of people not currently in attendance. Still, this is the biggest gathering of duet members I'd yet witnessed. Concerning, but understandable considering the circumstances. Carefully as to not draw attention, I began pushing my way through the crowd. I need to get a better look at the scene. Not just a better look, a closer position. Of course, if I drew too much ire, I could also draw attention. The duets were a broad group, not like everyone knew everyone, but even still, I'd rather not chance an encounter. The good thing was, I'd been given quite a bit more leeway since everyone's attention was focused on the scene happening in the middle of the room. How could they not be? After all, the conflict playing out was quite captivating. On one side stood Lara, face flush with anger. Clearly she stood passionately against what was taking place, and the other side's going to be Thane, right? Oh, Yi! On the other side was Yi. He had a cold, cruel look on his face. To the untrained eye, it appeared as though he was far less emotional about everything going on. However, I knew better. There was a simmering rage in him too. He was simply attempting to hold it in, for the sake of appearances. And then there was a figure in the chair in front of Yi. Tied up and looking supremely scared was Krish. Krish, you absolute goddamn moron. What the hell did you do? I was at a complete loss. Like, usually I had a pretty good bead on what was going on. I could make some general inferences, and I could still do that about some parts of the situation. But Krish's presence here? Just what the fuck? You just needed to stay put wherever Polly had squirreled you away. That was it. That was the only thing you needed to do. Whatever. I could cry and complain and scream later. Right now I just had one objective. Getting Krish the fuck out of this confrontation alive. A difficult proposal to be sure. But I just have to try my best. Part of that involved getting ready to make a move. And so carefully I continued to scooch forwards through the crowd. The circle had given the main actors a bit of space. However, only so much. The person currently closest to Krish other than Yi was only a handful of feet away. Possibly even less than that. A well-timed rush? The timing would need to be perfect. For now, try getting in a better position. And in the meantime, try tuning into the argument. Might have some useful information. Lara, I asked for the last time. What is the holdup? On what grounds are you delaying this? It's not complicated, yes. This little shit killed Marduk. An outsider snuck into our sanctum, murdered our boss. And Lara wishes to what? Let him just walk away? Oh, the kid's young. It wouldn't be right to enact punishment. Boo-hoo. That sort of weak shit is unacceptable. We're the duets. We live by our strength. Our claim to Panthea is built upon violence. We don't pull our punches in any circumstance, and certainly not when our head has been murdered. The criminal will not just be killed. They must be executed. The speech elicited a fair amount of cheering. However, less cheering than such a speech would typically get. Probably because it was given by Yi against Lara. While almost all the duets probably agreed to the sentiment behind Yi's words, they struggled to directly endorse him with their cheers. And so Yi did not receive the deafening endorsement that may have emboldened him to settle the matter then and there. Would you shut the fuck up, Yi? This one sentence has caused its own bound of whooping and hollering. Obviously, I'm not saying that we should let Marduk's death go unpunished. You'd have to be insane to suggest otherwise. It was Marduk who built the duets up, who brought us to where we are today. We all owe him our deepest respect, and the coward who snuck in and murdered him will be given the harshest possible punishment. I don't dispute that whatsoever. My only concern is, if you would actually listen to a goddamn word I said, was that we don't actually know if this is the person who killed Marduk. I don't want to convict the wrong person. I feel like Yi should know Krish better than that. Even if Krish had the balls to kill Marduk, which he doesn't, he sure as shit doesn't have the capability. Excuse me? There's no proof. It looks bad, I'll admit. I'm just asking that we proceed with a bit of caution. Caution, huh? No proof. Huh, is everyone hearing this? We catch Krish inside Marduk's office with the dead body, and Lara says there isn't any proof. The hell is that about? The kid entered through the window, which means someone else could have gone through the window, gone out. At the very least, we should listen to some testimony, don't you think? Have the kid explain what happened? What he says happened. I'm aware people can lie, Yi. I'm just saying, the slightest bit of due diligence might be called for when prosecuting the murder of our boss. I know you're not the biggest fan of being reasonable, but that's why you don't get to call all the shots. What difference would it make? Excuse me? Murderer or not, let's be clear here. Murderer, Krish is dead meat. I already had a hit at him. Plus, Krish intruded into our base. He's seen so many faces. There's not a choice to be made. The execution has happened. We can waste time with some pointless pleasantries if you want. As for me, I'd like to get justice. But maybe you don't understand such concepts. I understand justice more than you, jackass. Interrogating Krish is not just some pointless task. The execution is inevitable. Fine. We'll kill the kid regardless. I'm not trying to dispute that right now. However, if Krish didn't kill Marduk, we still need to figure that out, in order to make sure that the true killer can be brought to justice. Some testimony would help on that front, and I find it highly suspicious that you would seek to impede that process. Unlike you. Excuse me, suspicious? The fuck does that mean? I don't know, Yi. What does it mean? Say, wasn't it you and your gang that found the body? Yeah, we fucking did. I saw the jackass peek out the door and close it. So did a bunch of other duet members around here. I was just the only person to fucking do something about it. I had Fang come with me, went over to Marduk's office, came across the scene with Krish here trying to escape back out the fucking window. Got a problem with that story? I'm just saying, you were in there for a minute. Fang works for you, and you're not letting Krish speak. Possibilities open. Oh, you fucking bitch. How stupid are you? What, you think Krish is just running around that office with a living Marduk? That I silently murdered our boss immediately after entering the room in front of a random witness? That's how fucking stupid you think I am? Well, if the shoe fits. Yi began chuckling to himself. There was no mirth in that laughter though. It was laughter that took the place of a scream. A few moments later he recomposed himself. Ah, boy oh boy, you sure have a talent for ticking me off, Lara. I'd be making accusations like that? Cheeky. Quite cheeky, that. I'm surprised, honestly. I didn't think he'd stick to those sorts of tactics. Tactics? What tactics? Playing dumb, huh? A favourite hobby of yours, it seems. The bogus allegation tactic. You know full well that I had nothing to do with killing Marduk, that the very idea doesn't make a lick of sense. You're just throwing out wild shit to make me look sinister. Alright, give me one reason why you wouldn't kill Marduk. One. I could give you a dozen. Cool. Give one. Well, for one, the duet headship was up in the air. Who would succeed him was in debate. He hadn't clearly labelled a single person. I know we're not on the best of terms, as this big argument has made abundantly clear, but I would not kill the head when such a major question was unanswered. That's prime Civil War material, and believe it or not, I'd rather not tear apart the duets. It was the silence that followed this. Lara just took in this. Get a smile across her face. So you admitted it? The fuck? I just denied murdering Marduk, dumbass. Not killing Marduk? You admit that Marduk favoured me before his death. What? I mean, that's what your defence boils down to, right? You knew that Marduk, and general public sentiment, favoured me before the death. Therefore, you wouldn't have killed him before you got a chance to prove yourself to take back the duet headship. I mean, that's what your argument amounts to, right? Really? This is how you want it to be? Want what to be? You know damn well what I mean. You're gonna make this whole thing about that? This public argument's gonna be about duet headship? Come on, Yi. Don't kid yourself. This is what it was always gonna be about. Hell, this is what it was about from the beginning. To think or say otherwise, well, that's just delusion, isn't it? Cold air passed through the crowd. The tension only heightened. The feeling that a fight could break out at any moment was stronger than ever. I continued inching closer. Not at all. We could have settled the matter more tactfully when all parties were here. But fine, I'll make it clear. With Marduk dead, we need a new leader. As a senior officer who has been with the duets for the longest, I believe I should succeed Marduk. Ha! Of course you would think that. Of course I would, it makes sense. Just think about it for a second. I have served by Marduk's side for the longest. I understand him the best. Seriously? You're saying that when Thane exists? Lara, Thane wouldn't be Thane if he understood Marduk. I also have the most accomplishments of all the senior officers. I understand the infrastructure the best. I make the group the most money. By all accounts, I have the greatest claim to lead the duets. Greatest claim my ass. Look, Yi, even I'm not so blind to say that you don't play an important part in keeping the duets healthy. I'm not trying to kick you out of the gang. I should hope not. Here's the plain and simple truth. Public sentiment is on my side. Who gives a shit? The duets, namely. This brought a load of cheering, as well as a fair bit of booing. Shut it. And like that, the group was brought to heel. You're qualified, sure. But this isn't a matter of merit. There's a simple way to choose the next leader. We put it to a vote. Fuck that. Wow, openly denying democracy? Ballsy, I'll say that for you. Since when has the duets been a democracy? Marduk wasn't voted into office. I didn't win an election to become a senior officer. That shit goes against the duet's spirit. And the fact that you're trying to inject it in means you don't understand what this organisation stands for at all. Maybe it doesn't stand for what it used to. Ever think of that? I'm sure you think that much. Besides, an open election isn't a fair way to decide things. If it was, I'd just recruit a bunch of low-ranked losers to vote for me. Now that would be unfair. It's not much better than what you've done. What? If there were any sort of election, I would say that it should be a decision made by the people who have proven their worth. People who are critical to keeping the duets alive. And senior officers can vote for a leader amongst ourselves. Fuck that. Have a problem? Hell yeah, I have a problem. Thane fucking works under you. How on earth do you imagine that a 3-person election would ever resemble fairness? It's made up of the people that Marduk entrusted. But fine. We can include captains as well. That's not... Lara was faltering. Oh? Have a problem with that idea as well? Why is that? Is it possible because you know you lose that vote too? Face it, you might be popular amongst the grunts, but between everybody's worth of shit, you're a joke. Nobody qualified would trust you. You have forgetful, are you? I'm not. Then I guess you're extremely disrespectful. And how do you figure that? Marduk himself, our leader, appointed me a senior officer. In fact, by your own admission, he clearly favoured me. So I don't see how you can justify the statement, nobody qualified would trust me. The person who was most qualified trusted me. He thought I should succeed him when he died. You can't possibly know that. I can guess that. Yeah, well that's just one moment in time. I bet his mind would change by the next day. Uh-huh. Do you have absolutely any basis for saying something like that? He took a step back, waffling. You don't, do you? Actually, according to my sources, your little money play didn't amount to shit. What? I heard that some grunts under your control made a mess of things and the cops were called over to the shop where we're storing our dirty money. One of them found the stash, and the money was transported away in an armoured truck. That's a shit ton of profit lost by people under your control. The fuck? The whole crowd was now starting to worriedly mutter. That was their money on the line. Their money that had potentially been stolen. Yee's claim had certainly grabbed some attention. Yeah, it's a pretty bad situation. Luckily, you all have me. Luckily, I have contact with the police. I'm sure we can come to some strategy to raid and retrieve the money if we get our shit together in the relative future. But that requires, you know, getting our shit together? This smells like bullshit. Oh? Yeah, no, you're full of shit, Yee. You're behind the money going missing. Wow. No, you. An effective comeback? No, but for real, this doesn't make any sense. Sources? What sources? When did you get this news? I haven't seen anyone come up to you recently. You haven't taken a phone call while we've been arguing? Gosh, Lara, it's almost like my life didn't start the moment we caught Krish murdering our boss. What would you think of that? If you got this information earlier, you would have said something. This is a big deal. You would have been rounding the troops. And yet you didn't say it then. What can I say? It was poor timing. Things happened right after one another. I don't buy that excuse, and I don't buy that you come up with a bull-faced lie right there. So you must have known that our money would be intercepted by the police ahead of time. Which means you must have arranged for it to happen. Wow, what a novel you're writing. Anything to shake the blame, huh? Tell me why I'm wrong. Oh, I don't know. How about the fact that most of that money is fucking mine? You ever think of that fact? I'm a duet member. Why would I sabotage the duets? Has it stopped you in the past? I didn't even want to know what you're on about. No? Because I think it's pretty relevant to hear right now. Fine, bring it. What insane lie do you have now? It's no lie. It's a disgusting truth. You've been systematically killing duet members. A flash of annoyance crossed Yee's eyes. Annoyance that belied the fact that Lara was right. The crowd was already pretty wild before, but this accusation sent things into overdrive. Well, that worked out for me. The more hectic things were, the easier I could move toward Krish. At this point, I was right by them. I wanted to find a way to signal out to them, but I didn't think... But anything I did that they'd notice, someone else would probably notice. No, instead I should wait for the right moment. Killing duet members? Seriously? Yep. Not just any duet members. One's aligned with me. Aligned with you? The hell's that mean? Look, it's no secret I've been trying to make inroads with the duets. I've been trying to get people to my side, but almost each and every one of them has gone missing. Which is why not long ago I followed Thane. He went to the Manjet and killed more duet followers. But let's be real, conducting something like this isn't his style. He's been under your thumb for a long time. You were, at the very least, just as much of a part of this as he was. This proves you are more than willing to undermine the duets if it'll help you rise through the ranks. It proves you're a piece of shit that'll even backstab your own allies. It proves you don't deserve to succeed shit. Yi stayed silent for a moment, spurring on tons of jeering from the group. You done? Can I point out how ridiculous this all is? Make excuses, you mean? Lara, you said you witnessed this a while ago? How long ago exactly? Did you sit on the fact that Thane was killing duet members? That's... All of a sudden it was Lara who was at a loss for words. Look, I just didn't have any hard proof, and so you decided to tell nobody. Look, I don't know if this is true. Maybe Thane's been doing what you claim independently. But if that's the case, you're admitting that you sat on some pretty fucking huge information because you were scared. What, you'd get blowback? How the hell does that work in your mind? Even without evidence, you fucking bring it up if you catch duet members murdering each other. No, your whole story's probably bullshit. The only thing you just proved is apparently you've been making secret alliances with duet members, which sounds pretty goddamn seditious if you ask me. Not all the behaviour I'd want from a duet leader. What is this? How are you deflecting from the fact that you've been caught murdering members of your own gang? It's easy to deflect from obvious lies. What part of this is an obvious lie? There are so many problems with this stupid story. Here's a nice and simple one. If I were killing duet members, I sure as shit would have killed you. Not that things weren't extremely intense before now, but an explicit threat from one senior officer to another only elevated the tension in the room. How the fuck was I going to get Krish out of here safely? Ha! That answer's simple. You're too much of a chicken shit. That right. It is. You're fine killing people below me, but you know that actually killing me would be a problem. It would require someone showing some... showing some fucking guts. Guts you only wish you had. Man, this is just pathetic. You're not even trying to make arguments anymore. This is provocation, and petty provocation at that. You want me to kill you right here and now? I'm not falling for it. Oh no! Whatever will I do, knowing that you won't kill me, because that clearly was my master plan you so cleverly deduced. God, you're annoying. You should have died back when Art would have paid for it. Once this is over, I'm gonna kill the guy who helped free you. How? With a gun, obviously. No. What? No, I mean the guy who helped free me. So did I. What do you think I was talking about? I wasn't... Forget about it. Geez, you're trying to lead the duets and you get confused in a simple conversation? I didn't get confused, you did. Yeah, sure. You talked about killing my savior and I tried to clarify which guy you were going to kill. No, you asked how. No, she asked you. Quiet, Zouchi. Zouchi, if you know how, explain it to your boss. He's clearly not listening to me. Okay, first up, he doesn't know how. He's chronically stupid. Secondly, are we really doing this right now? I'm listening, you're just not talking straight. Who's on first? Holy shit, Yi. How's the guy's name? How should I know if I don't know it? You're joking. How are you this dumb? Why are you asking him? The dude's not even here. Zouchi, shut the fuck up. Must be embarrassing if your dumber sidekick still be smarter than you. You know what? Fuck this. Yi bent down and stood back up and... Before anyone knew what was happening, in one slick motion, Yi aimed his pistol right at Lara's head and shot her between the eyes. What? The room collectively went silent. The only sound was Lara's body hitting the floor. Just like that. Lara was killed. She died so unceremoniously. In a random instant of violence, she was gone. It was unsatisfying. No, it was saddening. No, it was infuriating. No, it wasn't the thing to focus on right now. Compartmentalize. I was looking for an opening and Yi slowly began walking forwards towards Lara's body. One particular zealous duet member began to walk forward, shouting up a storm. The instant this happened, Yi raised the pistol right at him and then the man went silent. Yi, you bastard. He was taking advantage of an important rule. Only senior officers were allowed to bring weapons into the V-Hall, which meant the reason he was walking over to Lara. Sure enough, he gave the corpse a brief pat down. Heh, stupid bitch didn't even have a gun on her. Yi surveyed the group, which was now filled with both frightened and furious fans. So, we could have continued that pointless argument, but I think this is far more elegant. In case any of you were unclear on this point, it is now clear who is in charge. That means that it took Yi this long to turn around and realize what was happening. As Yi was facing the other side of the crowd, I saw my opportunity. In a furious instant, I stepped forward from my spot and cut the ropes tying Krish to their chair with my knife. Just as soon as this was done, I grabbed their arm and began sprinting through the crowd towards Marduk's office. Fuck, stop! Imagine that Yi held up his pistol at me and Krish, but at this point, there were too many people in the way. I also imagined the crowd would have been a lot more cooperative had Yi not just shot another senior officer. As it was, they were just sort of standing around. Still, there were far too many people in the way to get through the front entrance. However, the path to Marduk's office was mostly uninterrupted. Zouchi, hold on to this. Yi tossed Zouchi his pistol. Keep the riffraff in line, nobody leaves until I'm back. Fang, Shia, you're with me. And just like that, 3 duet members were on our tail. Which, very unideal. But I just had to thank my lucky stars that Yi had alienated the rest of the gang with his random acts of violence. Because of that, he didn't know who was still truly loyal, and had to resort to relying on his inner circle while keeping the rest of the group contained. In truth, I thought the conflict between Lara and Yi might reach that point, knowing both of their personalities. I could only hope it would go so smoothly though. I kept sprinting toward Marduk's office and Krish kept pace. To their credit, they'd caught on incredibly quickly. They even seemed to know who I was despite very clearly not getting a good look at me. I guess they were already anticipating that I'd come to save them. That moron. Soon enough we made our way to Marduk's office. We entered and just as soon slammed the door back shut. Why'd we go in here? Not the exit? Too many people in that direction. We wouldn't have made it. Now start climbing out the window. It was a lot easier to enter Marduk's office through the window than it was to exit through it. However, it was still entirely possible. While Krish dealt with that, I pushed the nearby couch to block the door, trying to buy us some time. However, just as soon as the couch touched the door, it was knocked back as the door slammed open, and with it, so was I. Facing me down was the Goliath, Fang. Right behind him was Shia, who had already had his iron knuckles equipped. The two of them walked further into the room, and behind them was Yi, a twisted scowl plastered across his face. After he entered the room, he kicked the door closed behind him. Then he reached back behind his waist and pulled out the mini katana knife thing. I looked over to Krish. They hadn't made their way out the window yet. And seeing my predicament, they let go and dropped back down. God damn it! Well, well, well. If it isn't the hooded arsehole, why am I not surprised? Really, it's my fault for not counting on this. I'll hand it to you, Krish. You're good at drawing sympathy. That's about all you're good for, but it's something. You live a sad life, you know. Looking at Krish, I sort of expected to see some of the sadness that filled their eyes the last time they'd faced down Yi. But there wasn't any of that remaining. Instead, Krish looked kind of hollow. And more than that, disappointed. As though they'd accepted who Yi truly was, even if they didn't like it. Ah, Krish. To you it might look that way. However, many philosophers have posited that the only thing that matters about your life is how you view it. If a person sees value in their own life, then it has value. End of story. I don't care. Now, if you want to cut the shit, that's fine with me. Just trying to give you a thought that you can cling on to when you bleed to death. Yi's nasty gaze then turned to me. And you. I guess if you remove those sleeves, we'll see some lightning tattoos. I gave Yi no response. Yi apparently took this as confirmation. Want to do me the honors of an introduction this time? I spent enough time feeding you bullshit. Let's just get to it. A look of confusion crossed over Yi's face at that last comment. Then he just shrugged his shoulders. Suit yourself. And just like that, Yi and his men began to advance. Damn it. I'd talked a big game. I'd struck at the right time, but in the end I still found myself in a shit situation. There were 3 of them. I hadn't gotten a good look at Krish, but I noticed they'd already had some injuries. They were wincing through the sprint. I doubted they were in any real fighting shape. Fang and Xie? I'd fought them 2 before and held them off for a time. But that was a losing fight. True, last time I also had to contest with Zhaoqi and Jia. But this time, Yi was getting involved far earlier. I also didn't have the element of surprise, and the 3 surrounded me. I quickly flashed through some scenarios in my mind. No, shit. Anyway, I thought about it, Krish and I were as good as dead if we tried to face these 3 head on. To be honest, I doubted I'd be able to take Fang in a one-on-one setting. With Yi and Xie running support, it would be impossible. If there were a way to gain advantage, even take one of them out of the picture. I scanned through my memories, and then I realized something. Xie, Yi killed your sister. What? She was going to ally with Lara, so he killed her. Xie looked back at Yi, with a mixture look of confusion and betrayal. Yi just looked back for a moment. Oh, god damn it. And then without a second hesitation, Yi lifted up the knife and stabbed it down the back of Xie's left shoulder. The blade punched all the way to the handle. And just as soon as Yi had stabbed it into Xie, he pulled it out. Xie immediately dropped to his knees, crying out in pain. Yi just wiped the blood off the blade with one of his gloved hands. I don't know who you are, but you're a real pain in the ass, you know that? Fang, kill them both. And just like that, with Xie rapidly bleeding to death, the fight was on. Get out of the way, Krish. I normally expect some resistance from this request. However, given that a man had just died before their very eyes, Krish seemed a lot more eager to listen up. They retreated toward the corner. Good. Now how is I going to handle Fang? I'm not going to skip it, but I am going to fail it, but let's do it for the sake of doing it. Whatever, I just had to do it. I ran up to him, needing to do something, but before I could do anything, Fang made the first move. Dodge, droop, dip, dive, dodge. Dodge. Duck. At the last moment I was able to duck under Fang's arms and swipe right at me. A brief moment of opportunity presented itself. Kick, swipe, click. I began to wail on the side of his chest, multiple strikes hitting his exposed flesh. Perhaps expectedly, this didn't appear to have much of an effect on him. Instead of paying my attacks mind, he simply began to wind up his own counterattack. Swipe, slam, swipe again, strike, grab, click. I need to stay on the offensive if I had any chance of victory. With that in mind, I aimed a punch right at Fang's knuckles as he swung a downward fist at me. Crack. Ah, that fucking hurt. But it had to be done, and I couldn't linger. Immediately I jumped up and took the opportunity to plant my other fist right into Fang's face. This one also connected with a satisfying thud. Ha! Got him! I rushed forwards, hoping to strike him more in his chest. However, I overestimated how much time I'd bought with that attack. Responding with brutal swiftness, Fang kicked me right in the chest. Ugh. One blow sent me stumbling backwards into the desk on the other side of the room. How do I... Jump, duck. Left, right. Jump, left, right. Jump, duck, left. Jump, duck, right. Oh my god, that's confusing. I don't know. Jump. Before I could form a single comprehensible thought, I noticed Fang charging at me. Shit! In a flash of panic, I jumped off the desk I was leaned against. This is a bad idea. But too late now, I was already in mid-air, attempting to actually clear Fang by going over him. And in a miraculous moment, it actually worked. Hell yeah! I had approximately 1 moment of victory before I noticed Yi brandishing his knife. I just vaulted right into his range. Alright, here we go. Slash, slice, stab, swing. Slash again. Spin. Surprise. And another slash. And another slice. I guess slice then. Yi let out a long, wide slice, cutting through the air, aimed right at my stomach. At the last moment, I jumped out of the way, successfully avoiding the blade. But that was just one slash. Yi's assault was far from over. Slash, slice, swing, stab, click. As Yi lunged towards me, a knife came down at me. I spotted an opportunity. I just had to beat him to the punch, literally. I rushed forward and slammed Yi right in the face with my clenched fist. He was completely taken off guard by this maneuver and stumbled backwards. I tried to rush forwards and press my advantage, but he began blindly swinging his knife in an attempt to keep me away. It was unfortunately effective. After a couple of seconds, Yi had recovered, and he was not pleased. Slash slice, swing spin, surprise, stab. Yi rushed forwards, hoping to stab me right in the chest. Shit! I had to avoid it, but dodging to the left or right might leave me vulnerable. On instinct, I jumped backwards once more, out of the knife's way. And it was at this moment I felt my arms starting to be picked up. Shit! Behind me, Fang was holding both my arms out, pinned. I tried struggling, but it was no use. He was too strong. Fuck, I'd lost! In front of me, a slightly bruised Yi wiped the blood off his face and brandished his knife with a dangerous look in his eye. He slowly walked up to me. This wasn't good. He was gonna gut me. I had to... You know, some of my more bullheaded compatriots in the organization would say something like, I respect the fight you put up. You're a worthy challenger. I like that. What a load of shit. I tried to kill you and you hit me a lot. That pisses me off. So I'm gonna enjoy It was at this point Yi was cut off as the back of his head received a swing of a fist. Realizing that I was in imminent peril, Krish decided to rush in and help. And honestly, I was in no position to complain. Yi turned around with a furious expression. However, right as his face was facing Krish, they gave him a mean uppercut. Yi stumbled back a step or two and Krish continued to pummel Yi. After a few punches, however, Yi successfully blocked Krish's other blows. With momentum back on his side, Yi countered with a kick to Krish's gut. Krish fell to one knee and Yi began to lift his blade to cut down. However, Krish saw an opportunity there and they took it. They jumped up and kicked out at the hand at which Yi held the blade. Watching this from Fang's grasp, I could have screamed at Krish to ask them what the hell they were doing. It was a supremely risky attack, but every now and then dumb determination won out the day. The blow hit Yi right in the wrist, causing him to let go of the knife at the precisely wrong moment. The blade soared back through the air. I quickly estimated the blade's arc and swung forwards from Fang's arms. I was able to catch the discarded blade with my feet. Instantly I swung back with my legs and stabbed Fang in his leg with the knife. He cried out in pain, releasing me from his grip. I rolled forwards out of the fall, grabbing the blade out of Fang's leg all the while. Immediately I lunged out and slashed down at Yi. He blocked my strike with his arm, causing a major gash. Yes! Sensing blood in the water, I went for a straight stab at Yi. However, he wasn't out yet. He sidestepped my attack and slammed down on the blade, causing it to fall to the floor. I thought fast, and with my foot pushed on the knife on the floor to the other side of the room. Krish, who had been standing on the other side of Yi, immediately ran up to pick up the knife. Yi also rushed over in that direction. On the other hand, I just turned around. I had a score to settle, and an advantage to push. Fang was still bent down, tending to the stab wound in his leg. I was low enough I could jump up and strike down at him with a punch. It connected with a sickening thud and Fang stumbled backwards. Immediately I jumped again and punched his head with my other fist. Another successful strike, which I immediately transitioned into an uppercut. I punched him twice in the sides of the stomach before kicking him right in the center of it. Recoiling from the punch to the gut, Fang's head was low enough that I could grab his hair and slam his head into the side of the wall. Then I poked him in both eyes, and he lifted up his head, crying in pain. I took a step back and slammed my fist straight into his stomach with all my energy. Blow after blow after blow. I was running on pure adrenaline, not taking a moment to slow down. Every hit was intense, but more importantly, each blow was different. I was not affording Fang a moment to recover or even get used to the type of attack I was hitting him with. He was a monster, but even he couldn't resist it if I didn't let up for a moment. When I was running out of room to back up to, I decided to finally go for the kill. I reeled back and slammed my foot against his junk. He couldn't even cry out of pain at this, he just silently toppled over. But not yet. Not yet was I done. I rushed over him with one hand, grabbed the hair on his head and held him up. And with my other hand, I made a fist and slammed his head directly into the floor. The blow made a satisfying thunk, and then I felt like I could relax. No, not relax. I was done with Fang. Goliath down. But not done. I turned around and began walking over to the other scum. On the other side of the room, it seemed as though Krish had successfully grabbed the knife, Using it, they were staring down Yi, who seemingly only slightly deterred by the blade. I walked over behind Yi and grabbed the back of his neck. The hell? I pulled him over and threw him against the wall on the other side of the room. He looked confused and tried to get back to his feet, but before he could manage that, I grabbed the front of his head and slammed it into the wall behind him with all the energy I could muster. This sent him collapsing straight to the floor face first. A few moments later, he slowly got up to his knees, but it was clear he was done. The fight was over. I'd won. But I wasn't done with him. Who are you working for? What? I socked Yi straight in the eye. He shouted out, more in indignation than in pain, and reached for his eye. Who are you working for? The Duets, you jackass, obviously. I reached forwards and punched him in the chest several times, culminating with a pretty brutal shot in the gut. He slumped over slightly and began to wheeze. He was in pain. Good. Quit with the clever answers. Who are you really working for? The fuck are you talking about? I grabbed one of Yi's hands and held his arm out. Then I stomped as hard as I could on the middle of his arm, bending it in a way that arms really shouldn't bend. There was a satisfying breaking noise and Yi began crying out. I waited for a few moments to let Yi slightly recover. Then, who do you answer for? I guess I don't answer to anyone. I don't really care about the Duets, I'm just out for myself. I reached forwards and grabbed the front of Yi's face, though not before I could see the mounting horror in his eyes. Then I slammed his head against the wall behind him. Then I slammed it again, and again. Again and again and again, I just slammed his head against the brick surface. Finally, as I saw flecks of blood, I let go and took a few steps back. Yi began coughing up a storm. To be honest, I was slightly taking a shot in the dark here. I'd more or less reached two rough theories about what was really happening in Panthea. Recently, I changed my mind on which of those theories felt more likely, and the new frontrunner involved Yi as an active participant. Last chance. Who do you answer to? Fuck you. Those two words were the trigger. Before I knew it, my hands were around Yi's neck, and they squeezed in. I was choking Yi. Harder. Harder. Yi tried gasping for breath, but I wouldn't let the air enter his lungs. I was right up close to this fuck. And for whatever reason, a memory came to me. A memory of my father, killed by a gang member piece of shit like this one. A memory of my mother, killed by a gang member piece of shit like this one. Yi, this fucker, this amoral dipshit. Maybe there were relative moralities to the people in this organization, but Yi had no excuse. He made plenty of excuses, sure. I was certain he had all sorts of clever things to say. There was no true excuse. He was a sexist, selfish, shit-eating scumbag who would stab friend or foe just to get ahead, and showed no signs of stopping. The world would be better off without him. There was nobody who'd miss him. He deserves to suffer. My fingernails began to cut his skin. Yi's face was past red, starting to get blue. I could see his eyes turning bloodshot. More. Vals! All of a sudden I heard a voice call out from behind me. Stop this! He deserves it. Maybe, but still, you don't. What? You don't have to do this. You shouldn't murder someone, even like this. If you do that, how are you any better than him? He is defeated. He's no longer a threat. What you're doing now isn't helping anyone. It's just cruel and hurting yourself in the long run. Just stop it. Don't let him win. Would your dad want this? What? Would he want you to lose yourself to revenge again? I looked back to Yi. This fuck. It wasn't like killing would be crossing a line for me anymore. Still, I didn't like the idea of being a murderer. It's probably good to keep killing as a last resort, and definitely it wouldn't be bad to murder Yi. It would be bad to murder Yi in front of Krish's eyes like this. Yi deserved punishment. A lot of it. He was one of the most contemptible players in Panthea, and that was saying a lot. Still, he was thoroughly beaten. He'd alienated most of the Duet members back there. He was out of options, and so I let go. Yi began coughing violently the moment I took a few steps away. But that just meant he was alive. Given that, I think it was probably safe to chalk up Yi as an independently motivated factor in all of this. He definitely would have given it up had he been hiding something just there. So then, I felt like getting a headache. Was I being naive earlier? More important things to deal with. For example, I turned over to Krish. Krish, what the fuck are you doing here? It took a moment for Krish to process the whiplash of topics. Oh, you mean like the specific room, or? I mean, how'd you get caught for murdering Marduk, you idiot? Right. About that. I thought you were in trouble. Excuse me? Yeah, no, I was at my hotel room and I got a message. A message? The phone in the room rang. When I picked it up, it was a weird automated voice. They said they were friends with you, but also a Duet member. And they said you'd gotten yourself in a lot of trouble. The Duets had caught up to you. Wait, how did this voice know what phone number to call? I don't know, it confused me too. But I guess I had bigger things to worry about at the time. I asked what I could do to help and they said that they were occupied, but somebody else could sneak into the room you were being held and, you know, stage a whole rescue attempt thing. They gave me a specific location and instructions on how to get into the room you're supposed to be in. I knew it was dangerous, of course, but you know, I couldn't do nothing. So I followed what they said and made my way here. I entered this very office, like they said, through the window. Except when I entered, I didn't see you. I saw, that dead body. Krish pointed over to the dead body of Marduk, leader of the Duets, who had in fact just been lying on the couch in the same room this whole time. Obviously, this was very confusing and scary. I thought maybe, you broke free yourself. I wanted to see what was happening, so I went over to the office door and peeked out of it. You what? Look, we both regret a lot of my decisions, okay? Don't need to rub it in. Anyways, I guess someone saw me open the door briefly. When I realized there were a shit ton of Duet members around, I tried to flee through the window. Oh well, they caught me before I could get out. I could do nothing but sigh. Krish! I guess it was nice they tried to save me, but honestly I was too disappointed in how much they handled the whole affair to really appreciate it all that much. Anyways, it seemed like this anonymous voice had been doing a lot of work recently. This was war after all. A part of me wondered how they'd had access to where Krish was staying, but given all the information they seemed to have access to, that honestly didn't seem that implausible. The point was, I was still being hunted down. My enemy wasn't above putting people I was close to in jeopardy to lure me out. That list wasn't very long, but goddamn, they still found a way. I looked around once more. Yi was still far from recovering. The door to the main area of the V-Hall was still closed. It was probably time to get going. He'll just take over the Duets again if you let him go back out there. You can't leave him alive. You fucking can't. At least chop his arms and legs off, and then bandage him up so he'll be alive, but also only a torso. You can't run the Duets then, just as a torso. I walked over to the window, then I turned over to Krish. Look, Krish, escape through the window after me. Then just go straight back to the hotel room you were at before, and stay there. Lock the door, don't let anybody inside, even Polly. Maybe take Yi's knife with you, just in case. You need to hide out a bit longer. Yi was the one pushing for you to be captured. Something tells me he's going to be out of commission after this. Still, we should play it safe. Hide out for a bit longer. Got it? Slightly dazed by it all, Krish just nodded. Good. Then I began climbing up the office's windowsill. As I did this, Krish looked at me closer. They hadn't had an opportunity up until now, but they had a moment to really look at me. When I got up to the windowsill, I turned back to them. Bells? Who are you? Krish was smarter than they let on. A lot of my recent past had been incredibly calculated. The one thing really I hadn't planned on was befriending Krish. They were a good person. Still too naive, but they would grow out of that. They had charisma, ambition, and a genuinely nice personality, and that was a combination that tended to take you far. It was nice to get to know them. Loath as I was to admit it, they made my time in Panthea far more enjoyable. But from the start, our relationship was ill-fated. I couldn't be tying myself down with any connections. And Krish deserved better than to be dragged into dangerous situations they clearly weren't meant for. So I took a breath and said my goodbye. Live well, Krish. Oh, and in the future, don't enter the headquarters of a violent gang because an augmented voice told you to. With that final remark, I turned around and hopped out the other side of Marduk's office. I began making my way from the V-Hall. I didn't have time to look back. There was so much to do ahead of me. Now that, I can get behind that. This is the shit I love. Almost don't want to dwell too long. Let the adrenaline speak for itself. But I suppose I should say some parting words. Not for Lyra. Girl had it coming. I liked her, but she went about everything wrong. Can't really sympathize. I want to say goodbye to Yi. I mean, Vels didn't kill him, which is something, but let's be real. I'd be surprised if we see him again. Well, maybe if we check in with Thane. We'll see. It's interesting, though, that Vels didn't kill Yi. In deference to Yi, I'll leave us off with a quote. If ever we witness or hear about some terribly violent act, we will be quick to think ourselves different from the savage that committed the act. However, what makes such violent acts possible is precisely that lack of empathy. Something to chew on. Who knows if it's relevant? No new keys from that one, so that means in the next episode we're jumping back into Locke's story, which is, you know, technically the same character we were just playing as a second ago anyway, but a different persona of that character. Only 3 stacks left to finish, these 3. Should be interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking out for me, and I'll see you in the next one.